Hi guys, good morning. Am I in the frame? Oh, right, what time is it? It's fucking early. So about, let me see, about 16 years ago I started going to counselling, obviously for reasons of not functioning well and just being in a complete state. And so I started to see a counsellor, and she was very good. She was very good at her job. And it's when, for the first time ever in my life, I became aware of the darkness that lay in my own mind, in my own psyche, in my own consciousness. Because up until that point, I literally had no idea. I'd been sleepwalking throughout my entire life. Something dark had been running my show, had been sabotaging me every inch of the way, attacking me every inch of the way, torturing and tormenting me every inch of the way, influencing my thoughts, my feelings, my actions, my behaviors, my psychosis, my insanity, every inch of the way, actively encouraging pathology, insanity, hatred, rage, fear, every inch of the way. And I didn't even know it, because that was normal. That was my normal. And that was everybody else's normal. I live in a world where that is considered normal, because everybody else is unaware of it. In fact, there are people who do go to counselling for years and remain oblivious to it, because it's a very slippery customer, is WETIKO. It's very, very slippery indeed. It evades detection very well. Like I said, it's almost like pinning down air or water. But I went to counselling and I worked it out, because I became acutely aware of the voice, the presence in my mind, and the incredibly nefarious nature of that voice, constantly criticizing me, constantly berating me. Like I've just said, right? It's a constant stream of negative, underhanded, gaslighty filth. Now, I know, and this is what it does. It's like the question is, what came first, the chicken or the egg? One could argue. Because most people think, and I did too for a long time, and still do up to a point anyway, because right. Most people think, well, the reason I'm like this is because I was severely traumatized by other people, and it's their fault. They were evil. They totally fucked me up. My mother did this to me, my father did this to me, or the system did this to me, or whatever. Somebody did it to me, and that's why I am this way. The trauma. And that's why I've got this shit going on in my psyche. Because it's trauma and it's PTSD. Right. And that's true. That's true. But you could also look at it from the other side. You could say that the reason the world is this way, and the reason that my own siblings, my own family, the schools, the doctors, the nurses, the psychiatrists, the mainstream media, whatever, is doing this to me, evil aliens, the jinn, whatever, is doing this to me, is because there is a sickness at the heart of all of us. There is a sickness in our consciousness that makes us think this way, feel this way, behave this way, parasite of one another. Right? As within, so without. As without, so within. So I was going to call it symbiotic, but of course that isn't it, because it isn't supportive of. It is rather the opposite. So it's parasitical in nature. That is what WETIKO is. It's a parasite in a sense, but well, I'm gonna spend. In fact, that is what I feel really is what I want to do for quite some time, is to continue to disseminate WETIKO, to try and really, because I have been paying a great deal of attention for the last how many years, in fact all of my life I've been really paying close attention to what reality really is, and you know, and why. And I think it behoves us all to disseminate this, to really ask the hard questions. And like I said, ultimately, during those counseling sessions, what I discovered was that first and foremost it lives in here. And I could blame everybody out there for doing it to me, and that's why it's there. But they did it to me because what's living in me, in my psyche, is also living in their psyche. It has literally taken possession of a large part of our consciousness. And we are all doing it to each other, and we are all doing it to ourselves. I think that would be more apt to say. And there are no winners in this game, and there are only losers, and ultimately WETIKO is a schism in our consciousness. And I had some feelings about it yesterday. They weren't really thoughts, they were more kind of like feelings, because of course the biggest question here might well be, well, where did it come from? Where did it come from? How did it happen? You know? Where did it come from? How did this happen? I mean, how did we end up being infected with this virus, or possessed by this thing? And then of course, straight away as we ask that, we immediately go back to, it came from somewhere external to consciousness and invaded us. And that's interesting, because the minute I have that thought, I feel the crank within me stirring. That crank, yeah, that's what it is. It came and it did it to you. It's always, you're a victim. You're powerless and you're a victim. See? That is what it wants. I can honestly say that I know its ways so well now. I know how it works. I know how it feels. I know how it thinks. I know how it works. I know how it's situated within me, and how it runs the show, because I've been observing it for so many years. And I know how it feels, and I call it the crank. It wants its pound of flesh. Oh boy. It wants its pound of flesh. It wants feeding. It wants to feed. It's vampiric. Yeah. I see that reflected in the external world when I see the Babylonians doing their blood sacrifices. That is how they get their power. You see, or how they perceive that they get their power. They worship these dark entities that demand blood sacrifices. The pagans used to do it. You know, they went underground. They became the Babylonians. You know, they worshipped the old gods. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Look, more and more what I realise here is that the external world is merely a kind of image, a kind of map of my inner terrain. Because everything that happens in the external world, I call that the field. So anything that happens in the field is telling me something, and it's showing me something. It's telling me about WETIKO, and it's showing me about WETIKO, and it's also showing me how to heal or neutralize WETIKO. But you have to become very, very adept at reading it, seeing it, getting it, understanding it, synthesizing it, processing it, whatever. Right? Oh, it's nice coffee. I mean, it's the biggest factor in all of it. I cannot say this is where WETIKO came from. I can't say that because I have no proof. I honestly do feel, because this keeps. I feel this, I sense this deeply. It's as if this whole thing is not real. It's a module. It's like when you go to uni, say you go to Cambridge University or Oxford, you say, oh, I'm going to do English Lit, or I'm going to do history, I'm going to do the history of art, or whatever, right? So that's a module. And I feel that ultimately that is what this is in some, not in the strict sense of the word, but in a sense, in an essence of, for me. Okay, so I came into this world and I'm having this educational type of experience, and it's all about finding this thing, this WETIKO, this ghost in the machine, learning everything I can about it, hence having to go through all kinds of really difficult, really painful, horrendous experiences, because that is where it lives, and so that is where I had to go and have to go and am in, because that is where it lives, that's where I see it, and that's how I can observe it. It's like, when reconnaissance, you go in there, what's the word? Well, you go into enemy territory or to observe the enemy. That is what this is. That is what this is. That's why so many people that are doing this, soul travelers, call it what you will, are finding life very, 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 very hard indeed. And there's a great shitload of trauma. And there's also a shitload of very dysfunctional behavior. Which I see all the time. It's incredible. Your first mission here is to get to a point of undenial, people. Undenial. Just like me 16 years ago, where I had to painfully become aware of WETIKO inside my own being, running the show, like it is in everybody's being, running the show. Hence this world. This is the world of WETIKO, the fallen world. So this module that I came into, I keep saying we, but I'm going to stop doing that. I'm just going to say I, because I cannot speak for anybody else at all, and nor do I want to. So this module, this is how I choose to see it. This is sort of what resonates with me. And again, the mind cannot go. This is very difficult to put into words. And it isn't really like that, of course. But it's sort of it is a bit like that. So, yeah. This is my quest. To come into this place that has been infected with a virus of consciousness, it's a malfunctioning consciousness that keeps recreating this shit. And something is happening now, because we see how dark this world is becoming, and we see. Here I go again, we. I dare say some of you do see that, because you leave me comments and I can tell. I email it with a couple of people. You tell me what your experiences are, and it's quite obvious this world isn't real. It shows us very clearly that it's not real. It does, it shows us that very, very clearly, but WETIKO, a part of WETIKO is mundane reality programming. I call it mundane. This is a terminology that I've coined myself. Mundane reality programming. So anything outside the box labeled mundane reality programming, anything outside that brings about massive cognitive dissonance. So when you are sitting there on a bench in a park and you look into a tree and you see it morph and become something else, going further away yet coming closer to you, your mundane reality programming goes, oh, you're just having an acid flashback, or oh, you're just imagining it, that didn't really happen. Whereas your true self is there saying, yeah, that's about right, this isn't real, people. Because I keep having those types of experiences, and not just that, but come on, people, like you go to the doctor and the doctor says, oh, I have to tell you that you're diagnosed with this, that and the other, and you go home, you're all upset, and then you go and see the doctor a week later for this, that and the other, and he goes, I never said that, you're not that is not happening, it's something else, or there is nothing there at all. Reality resets itself constantly, it changes and it morphs all the time, but we are conditioned to second guess or even just blatantly deny that is, no, it's real, this is all real. It's real. And this is all there is. This is all there is. Because in that field, the WETIKO field, then it can just carry on. You know, it's on a repeat loop, but of course, this, you know how difficult this is to actually put this into words. I mean, I have to... Yeah, I get it, but it's very difficult to put into words because it literally is so... like I said, yeah, you can't pin it down. It's very, very, very clever. This is its realm. I came into this realm, and it entered me as I entered this realm. The fallen world. And I still feel with all my being that I'm here to heal it or neutralize it. I don't know if those are the right words. And that is what reset is all about. Because if you took WETIKO out of the equation, let's say that it is a dysfunctional type of principle. Let's say that one needs dark and light to create, not dark in the dysfunctional WETIKO sense, but as a raw material. That would be the right way. That would be flow. That would be, yes, wow, infinity, infinite creativity, infinite unconditional love. But in the upside down world, that dark material, that natural material, cannot be used anymore. It just simply takes over like a weed. See, a weed in the garden, in its right environment, that is tended to by the gardener, everything is in symbiosis. Everything then is in symbiosis. But something else natural could be entered into that, say Japanese knotweed, blackberry bushes, that sort of thing. And if untended, it just takes over and destroys everything. But it's not evil, but that is a sign of WETIKO in the external world. This is very difficult to put into words. And if I ramble on a bit, guys, please forgive me. It's you know. And those are not great analogies, actually, because there are many different nuances you could argue for, against, up or down, whatever. Like I said, I mean, the way to approach this entire thing is through undenial, is to first and foremost become very hyper aware of it within yourself in all its nuances. Take for example the ego, which I don't like that word, is a fake persona. There are so many different nuances in that alone, because traumatized people, wounded people, will develop a fake persona in order to survive in the WETIKO world, right? So, and that can get really, really nasty. Really not. Come on, we narcissism, for example, and it's interesting because I look online and there's so many different YouTube channels devoted to narcissism and the narcissists, and none of them approach it with compassion. That most of them, in fact not all, all of them approach it with judgment, with hatred, with vengefulness. Now, my mother was a narcissist, no doubt about it. She made my life an absolute living hell. Yes. It was unbelievable. And for a long time I really hated her, and oh boy, I mean, wow. I wanted to torture my mother to death, you know, but I now understand what truly lies at the heart of it all, what truly fueled my mother's behaviour. She hated herself, but I know this, it's very obvious to me now, because I inherited that. It was an ancestral thing to start with. There was World War II, there was trauma. I'm not exactly sure what happened in my mother's family, which is a bit of a bummer. This is always good to know. But suffice it to say that WETIKO lives in the trauma. That there was at some point the ultimate trauma, the fall. The fall. Imagine going from a state of ultimate grace, infinite unconditional love and creativity, a world that is so magical and so beautiful that has to be almost beyond our imagination at present on account of WETIKO and our mindset of that. And then somehow, here we are in this. That in and of itself, something happened, the greatest trauma, the great abandonment, hence this abject hatred of the feminine principle. My mummy rejected me. Mother doesn't love us. Mother has rejected us. We are not loved. We are bad, undeserving. We are worthless. We are all alone in the dark. We are not safe. There's so many different nuances to that. But that is definitely a very important element that comes up for myself and other people that I have listened to, that I have heard speak, that I have witnessed and watched and observed in the world, as everywhere I see this. It's my mother, yes, she was an incredibly wounded person. I can choose to see her as an evil person who did this to me because she enjoyed doing it to me, and I hate her forever and ever, and WETIKO will win. WETIKO will win then. Or I can choose to understand that my mother was incredibly fucked up and incredibly wounded, infected with a sickness that lay in that ancestral line. And like I said, some people have less of an immune response than others. You see, that's how that plays out. That's why when I look at the Pope or Henry Kissinger or, you know, any of these types of people, Condoleezza Rice used to give me the creeps. Pure evil. These are people that have no immune response. You know, the black-eyed people. We come across that over and over and over again. The black goo in the X-Files, and the black-eyed children and the black-eyed people. I'm not saying that's all real. It exists in the field, in my field. It probably exists in some of your fields as well. Come across this in the paranormal world all the time. See, these are all external symbols, archetypes, examples, energetic frequency types, things that exist on bandwidths, whatever, electromagnetically, who knows, right? They're showing us something, showing us stuff. Yes. So my mother had very little immune response. Generally, when people have been severely traumatized, their immune response goes down. It's like when you're HIV positive, or when you're Hep C positive or something like that, you're immunocompromised. So, you know, infections and this and that, you're immunocompromised. It's a bit like that. It's a bit like that. So, you know, it wants us to hate. I know that much. It wants us to stay with this whole thing of like, oh, it's out there. It's them. They're evil. They're disgusting. I hate them. Perpetuate that. That's it. And it's a complete waste of time, people. The power has always been right here. Right here. We are now in a time of a great shift, I feel. But it requires a force of will such as is almost beyond words. Because the virus, WETIKO, it's very manipulative. It's been our daily diet. It's been our daily diet all our lives, and for quite a lot of people that think they're awake but clearly aren't very awake, they still don't even realize what drives them. There's still that need to be above other people, for example. I come across this all the time. Arrogance. There's such arrogance, which is false, because that isn't. If you have confidence in yourself, lovingly, you do not need to position yourself above anybody else. There's no need for it, because you're not afraid. You don't feel worthless and powerless. You don't feel like a victim. You simply love yourself. And you know, there's a good solid foundation there, and that's it. But there's a lot of people, they're just very arrogant, and it just shows how wounded they are. There's people that's like, oh no, you should be a vegan, and you know, and if you're not a vegan, then you're this and you're that, and ooh. Or you should believe this. You know, you should believe in anarchy, you should be an anarchist, See, all of this is all ego. This is all these interactions on a daily basis that we have with the field. Behaviorally, emotionally, mentally, energetically. And it's all virus. It's all virus. All of it is WETIKO, because, like I said the other day, the sentinel, the true self, is there. It doesn't need to do any of that. It simply is. I'm not saying we should just sit there and be nothing. I'm not saying that. And actually, the sentinel isn't nothing. Rather, it is everything. Because I hear about that in the sort of spiritual arena, where people go, oh, it's going to nothingness. And I'm like, you're full of shit. It's not about that. It's not about nothingness. It's about everythingness. Everything. Because it is consciousness. Consciousness is infinite. And it's infinite creatorship. Sovereignties of infinity. Infinite sovereignty. Infinite creatorship. If that's even a word. We get triggered so much, especially now, this year especially, it's really ramping up the crank. Trigger after trigger after trigger after trigger that we want to react to, because WETIKO makes us very reactive. So rather than seeing the field, the external, as a teacher and a way shower, and then okay, we see it as a threat. We see it as something to react to be at war with, I'm gonna smash you down, I'm going to defeat you, I'm gonna have my pound of flesh. That's WETIKO, people, that's WETIKO. That's where it lives. That's how it expresses itself. That is the crank. And whoa, it's so addictive. So addictive. Undenial is the first step in it all. Recognize what lies within you. Recognize what's happening in your psyche and work on becoming ultra aware of that. That is true awakening. Something within you, your true self, will help you every step of the way with that. That's what I call grace. It wants you to be. It wants you to transcend. That's what you're here for. Well, I am here for. Oh, sorry guys, I keep doing that, but you know, never mind, doesn't really matter. That is the Holy Grail. To liberate consciousness. And the fake self, the false self has to die for that reason. And I think that's part of why it's so fucking painful, and so difficult, and so hard. And then, whilst you're going through that, the WETIKO infused, possessed part of you, the shadow, is there every day, every minute of the day, telling you that you're being psychically attacked, which in a sense is sort of true, telling you that you're a victim, telling you that evil's won, look at the world, look at yourself, look at everything, it's fucked, you're shit. Telling you they are doing it to you, go to war with them, punch them, kick back, fight. Allow yourself to allow this hatred and this rage to run your show. And in fact, it's just self-hatred, because WETIKO is, at the heart of it, I feel, self-hatred. And when it's exposed, like when they destroy the locket, the Horcrux, in the Harry Potter film, the Deathly Hallows Part 1, yeah. That thing comes out, it's exposed. WETIKO is exposed. When you become aware of it, when you start to really go into it, and that is in and of itself grace, people, because, you know, if evil, WETIKO, whatever, if it was all powerful, we wouldn't even be able to do that at all. We would never even be aware of it. We would remain in the state that I was in before I went to counselling and became aware of it. We would never ever go even past that, but we can and we do, because it's a quest, and it is determined that we shall do that. See, hence we are doing it, hence grace, hence the true self, the sentinel, love, call it what you will, always wins in the end. It's just an experience. But whoa, there it is, WETIKO. Whoa, no, that's all bullshit, you can't trust that. And have you noticed, by the way, people, how of late, and as well, it's always been that way, but it's more so now than ever, your mind becomes really sluggish all of a sudden, really sluggish. You can't think straight. It's as if it's got you by the balls, really. I can't think straight. Oh, I was doing really well. I was really working it out. I was really getting this clarity and this understanding. And all of a sudden, it's just like it's been snatched away. And everything's become really turgid and sluggish and stupid. All of a sudden, all that mundane reality programming is back, siphoning my energy, the fear, the doubt, the self-hatred. I find that's really been ramping up, you know, this year especially. Things have gotten very dark. Very dark. And it's as if there's more denial now than ever before, and it's as if there's more people wanting to celebrate ignorance, depravity. It's as if more people are having dark awakenings, where you think, wow, yeah, you're doing really well, and then all of a sudden, bang, and they just plummet all the way, and you look at them now and you think, wow, mate, you look like shit. What's happening to you? What are you doing? It's appalling. It's mad. It's where people somehow fail to summon up the courage and the will to confront their own darkness, and they let it just take over. And that's it, because this is a battle. It's a pitched battle right now. It really is, people. There's no doubt about it. But it's not a conventional war, as in against, like that. It's not that way. As I'm going through all this, wow, I find that when I fight against, when I push back, it just gets worse. It just becomes even more pronounced, even more dark. If I go into it, because it's interesting, because it's there, it's like, it's in me, attacking me. You know, you watch your own, when you're really depressed, it is most pronounced then. You try having a positive thought. It just won't have any of it. It's like, no, you're not going to have a positive thought. And even having a positive thought won't make any difference, because no good will come of it. But every negative thought that you have will materialize somehow. You're fucked forever. Severe depression, well, any kind of depression really, is just self-hate manifest, yeah? That's really what it is. And that's why now there are more people depressed than ever before. And of course doctors medicate that shit, right? Doctors represent the ultimate denial, you see. The big pharma. Let's not look at it, people. Let's deny. Let's medicate it. And there's so much self-hate in all of that somehow. It's because people can take these medications, it'll just make them very sick. You notice this all the time. You go into any hospital now, and you will see that they're killing people. You see? Because it's all coming up now. It needs to come up. It wants to come up. It's almost as if WETIKO is self-destructive. It wants to die. It's like, I'm tired of existing. I want to be exposed. I'm tired and I want to die. It wants to be healed, or it wants to die, to be transformed, to be alchemized. So it's all coming up. It can no longer be denied, and it can no longer be medicated away. So try and medicate it, antidepressants, whatever, chemotherapy, opiate painkillers, and actually it does the exact opposite of what it's supposed to do. It makes people even more depressed, it makes people even more psychotic, it makes people even more sick, it grows the tumours even bigger. Yeah. The only way is to confront it within ourselves. That is the only way. There is no other way. The external is a manifestation, it's a mirror, it's a map, and it's showing us what is what. And the only way to heal this is to confront it within ourselves. That's the only way. This now here, this is the great revealing. It was always going to get very, very dark. You cannot heal something you do not know exists. It has to manifest itself. It has to show us all. Here I am. This is what I am. In here. And via the projector out there, you see. So, fucking observe, right? Pay attention. See what happens every time. So every time you're triggered, and you'll get triggered now, because it's the whole WETIKO, the whole virus thing. It's right here now. It's right at the surface. It's no longer stuck in the subconscious. It's all here now. Hence, in the field, it's all here now. Evil, as it were, as we call it, is so obvious now and so overt. You switch on, go into Netflix or whatever, Amazon Prime, and you look at all the films and the television series. You look at the runways of the fashion world. You look at the novels that are written. You look at the music, the lyric, the this, that and the other of this world, and you'll see it everywhere. It's no longer in the subconscious. It's here. That is good. Because when it's in the subconscious, everything is subtly but definitely in its power, in its grip. When it's here, that's still the case, but at least, hey, we can see exactly what's what there. So that's good headway, in my humble opinion. But it's really putting up a fight. It requires us to be... It's interesting because the full moon we're having on the 8th and the 9th is in Leo. And Leo is all about sovereignty, sun, soul, the soul, freedom, our true self, the sentinel. It's all about will. Whereas Aries is I am. Leo says I am, and I am the master of my own domain. I am the infinite creator, creatrix, whatever. Yes, I'm in control here. This is my place. This is my consciousness. Yes? All we've known is WETIKO. That's how it is, that's how it is. And you try and have positive thoughts, and you try and you think, well, how do I manifest healing? How do I manifest reset? How do I make things better? Then you're on your knees suffering so much, and so much hate, and so much rage, and so much reactivity, and war, conflict, hate, rage, vengeance, all the insanity, because it is right here now. And step back. Keep stepping back. Keep stepping back. There are all these really horrible feelings. There are all the memories that literally cause jolts of shock, PTSD-esque in your body, you know, the horror of it all. I know full well the experience, believe me. So you've got to be with that. And hold yourself and cradle yourself, because love, ultimately, is the only antidote to the virus that is WETIKO. Love is the only medicine that will heal self-hate. See, WETIKO lives as well in all the manipulations of truth, like the law of attraction, which is interesting how that plays out in our psyche and undermines us. When you're really depressed and you're having all these horrible thoughts just pop, literally pop into your head out of nowhere. Terrible scenarios, this is going to happen, that might happen. And you're almost in shock with fear. And it's saying, oh, that's going to happen now, you see, because you've had a negative thought and that's going to happen, you're going to manifest that. But that's not true. How many times have you had a really negative thought and it hasn't happened? You see? But it wants you to be afraid because that's just how that works, you know. It's temporarily we do tend to manifest. Like I said, I mean, I've had this image of my shadow, this emaciated being with rotten teeth and hair falling out and Sometimes we temporarily embody these ailments, these distortions. Yes, we do. Why do you think everything is sick? Everybody is sick. Why do you think there's dust everywhere? Right? I mean, there was this woman, this famous woman, she used to say, I sweep the room with a glance because she hated cleaning. Well, I don't like cleaning either. And the fact that I have to do it irks me because it tells me that there's something very wrong here. Where's all that dust come from? You think about Stranger Things, in the upside down world, it's just full, it's all dark and dirty. Everything's dirty and there's these particles floating about everywhere, right? They do like to tell us, don't they? That's what this world is. It's just dust is everywhere. And viruses and bacteria. It's... It takes a certain type of consciousness to work this out, to conclude this quest. It takes the consciousness of the sentinel, which is just pure power, which brings me back to Leo full moon, which of course the map is not the territory. I don't tend to get into astrology that much anymore, but I do find that interesting for me at the moment. It sort of resonates. Sovereignty. Ultimately, who is going to control our consciousness? The sickness, the self-hate or the self-love? The self-hate or the self-love? The sickness or the healing? It's that analogy of the old Indian talking about the two wolves. One is full of hate, full of insanity, ignorance, against, and the other one is just pure power, love, compassion, wisdom. Which one will win? Which wolf will win? The one that you feed, yes. But of course, it's a bit more complex than that. When you're under heavy fire, I call it the dark onslaught. And it's a catch-22 because the more you heal, the more aware you become of what lives within your own mind, the more it resists, the more intense it gets, the hotter the fire burns. You see? But that's good, in a way. That is a sign that it's healing, believe it or not, yeah. See, because otherwise I would still be exactly the same as I was 16 years ago, but I'm really not. All the stories it tells us, all the lies and the deceptions and the distortions playing out here, and we're so used to believing that's the truth, that's how we've lived our whole lives. Oh my God, I'm terrified, oh my God, I want to die, I can't take it anymore, ooh, I hate you, I hate myself, ooh, all of it. And yet I think it's being purged. So we have to stay the course and remain committed to undenial. We are not alone. Our true self, which is us, is always with us. This is the time. I do feel that. This is the time. It is here now that we do the most sacred of work. Yeah. I think I'll call it a day there, because otherwise I just end up going on forever. And again, I do this mostly for my own clarification, because it's easier to do this than to write it all down in a journal. So this is really more or less for myself, but if any of you resonate with it and get any kind of you know, any kind of anything from it that helps you to help yourself, then that's wonderful. That's great. So yeah, all my love to all of you.